Hello everybody, this is Robbie, and I am coming to you today to talk about my 2019-2020 picks for my 3rd/4th grader. And when I got all this stuff out and started laying it out, I about had a cow. I'm like, seriously? I have this much stuff? So if you've watched my last video, or maybe you didn't, but I told you how I was no longer going to be getting our curriculum through the charter school, that we were going to homeschool independently this year. And so the majority of this stuff we purchased on our own, or got on our own, I should say, which has a little bit of explanation to it, and I'll get to that in a minute. But so we have to turn in the items that we had from the charter school, except for 2 classes, the science and the math, because they had already purchased those kits for us, and we had plenty of material to go into the next year. So we are staying with them part-time so that we can continue to utilize those resources and not have to repurchase that stuff. But everything else we've obtained on our own, because we're going to be homeschooling independently. And if you've seen any of my unboxing videos or any of my previous curriculum picks, for different school years, usually some of the comments I get are related to how much stuff we have and this and that. And you'd think that with us making these purchases on our own that we would simplify. But as you can see, I did not at all. So it looks a little overwhelming, but I promise you it's not. I don't have more subjects than what I think we can handle. So let's just dive in here and talk about this. So this section right here is almost all social studies, and it's a lot. I'm going to be the first to admit that. But my plan is to take this, do this over a course of 2 years if I have to. And I have no problem doing that. So what are we using? Well, I'm glad you asked. I will tell you. Okay, so this right here is called Our Star-Spangled Story. It is by Notgrass. And Notgrass is a company that it provides Christian curricula for social studies, both world history and United States history, but they never offered an early elementary program until I think last year, maybe the year before. It's new to them, and it is supposed to be, okay, I'll make a correction on the screen if I have to, but I think it's 1st through 4th grade. It might be K through 4th grade, but I'll double check that. But this is one of those one of those courses that can be used for multiple years or for multiple age ranges. So I had been wanting to use this for a while, but because the charter won't purchase anything faith-based, I was never able to use it. So I reached out to Notgrass and asked them if they would be interested in providing this curriculum in exchange for a review. And they were very gracious about that, and they did send this to me free of charge in exchange for my honest review. So I will spend more time on this in another video doing a walkthrough, and then I will review it at the end of the school year. But I will tell you just briefly what it comes with. It does come with 2 parts of a text, part 1 and part 2, and it comes with a timeline. It comes with the student workbook. It comes with, this is the test, I think, guide, test, Star-Spangled Key, and literature guide. Okay, so the thing that's unique about Notgrass and what I love about them is that they are a textbook and a literature-based approach, where Sunlight, Bookshark, My Father's World, I think, I'm not too familiar with them, but I think they have the same approach. Beautiful Feet are all a literature-based approach to social studies or history. This is both textbook and literature combined into one program. Now, they didn't send me the literature. They only sent me the core curriculum, which includes the timeline, the workbook, the guide, and then there's one other component right here, the rhythms and rhymes book. And then they have a literature pack that goes with it. I think it's like 6 or 9 books, something along those lines. And we had read most of them already. So when I started digging into this, I realized that they also provide a literature guide to go with this. It's not this. It's just a list of recommended reading material if you want to add to the literature pack or you want to substitute. So in our case, we did both. Can you tell? Can you tell? We did both. We added 2 for sure. And then, of course, did make a few substitutions. So let me just pull out my little list here. Okay, so this is my list, and it's broken down by unit. So anything with an asterisk, good grief, is a book that we'll get to if we have time. These are the units that I plan to have these books read in, and the list includes a combination of historical fiction, or at least fiction that's related to the time period that's being studied, and also some nonfiction material. So the Notgrass literature pack and also the books on their recommended list are historical fiction. And my son really likes nonfiction books, so I literally just went to my home library, which is a little out of control, it appears, and pulled anything and everything that I found to be relevant. Plus, I got a lot of the books that were on their recommended book list. So, I'm going to have to cover this in a separate video, but I just want to give you an overview of what this stuff is and why we have it. Again, most of the stuff in this area are the nonfiction books, and then these are the fiction books. And either I'll drag this out, that's so negative sounding. What I really mean is I'll probably extend this to a 2-year program, because this actually covers both early American and modern American history. So I won't have any qualms about making this a 2-year program if I need to. I also want to incorporate some geography into this, and the 50 States is what I'm going to be using for that, which is a beautiful book. And then it has a workbook called The 50 States as well, which I got on Amazon. I got both of those on Amazon. I've got these World Almanac cards, which have to do with the states and capitals, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, well, not just states and capitals. It's literally going into U.S. history and geography. So I want to incorporate these. And I have some games and puzzles, because every Friday we do what we call Fun School, Friday Fun School. And my son gets to pick the things that he wants to do for each of the subjects. So I like to have plenty of games and fun things to do for all of our subjects. And I even incorporate some of these into our everyday learning too, because I really am a true believer that when there's interest and you make it fun, they learn it faster and better. So I have this Professor Notgrass game on American history for the American Revolution. I have this did I say Notgrass? I didn't mean that. I meant Professor Noggins U.S. game on the Civil War. I have a sequence for the states and capitals. I have a U.S. map puzzle. I have the brain box for the USA. And I also have the Scrambled States of America. So we haven't played any of these. So if something ends up being a dud, I've got some backups here. And like I said before, I'm kind of a thrift junkie. Or maybe I didn't mention that, but I am. I'm kind of a thrift store junkie. So I've been building up our home library. And also when I see these kinds of things that I think have educational value, I pick them up because, you just can't get them any cheaper than a thrift store unless you find them at a garage sale. So anyway, that's kind of what I've got for U.S. history and geography. I do have an Evan Moore book too that I'll be pulling in that I don't have out here. It's the geography book from the Skill Sharpeners series from Evan Moore, and there's some United States sections in there that are related to some, I know there's one on California, and there's some stuff related to some of the geographical regions in the United States that we'll pull out. So this is essentially what we're going to be doing for our history/social studies and our geography. And these books are going to also be readers for him. So I may choose to do some of these as read alouds, and all of these are at his or below his reading level. And a lot of the ones that are in here are just readers, so they're real easy reads. So it looks, I think, more overwhelming than really it is going to be. But I am flexible, and I'm not going to force him to do everything. We'll just pull anything that feels like it's unnecessary, and we'll extend the school year if we have to. All right, so let's talk about science. Now, science is going to be done through our former charter school. We've opted to do a part-time with them, which allows us to do 2 courses. They had already purchased our science and our math curriculum, so rather than repurchase those, we're going to continue to use them. I have a lot of science in my library, okay? So, but I'd already kind of geared myself up for us doing the Bookshark Level 3 science, and the materials are absolutely fantastic. These Notgrass, what is wrong with me? Why am I calling everything Notgrass? Usborne, there's a lot of Usborne in here. If you could see it, I've buried it all. So a lot of I almost said Nussborn. Seriously, what is wrong with me? Usborne. A lot of Usborne books. There's this one here on the Encyclopedia of Seas and Oceans, the Science Encyclopedia. There's some Topps books that have a lot of projects in them. There's a science kit box that has all of the supplies you need to do all of the science experiments. The CD that has the experiments on it, listening to crickets. You've got the you've got the instructor guide and the student workbook pages. This course is going to cover biology, taxonomy, and human anatomy. There's also the biology book by Real Science for Kids, which has always been highly recommended. Here's another Usborne Mysteries and Marvels of Science. There's a magic school bus on the human body, and that listening to crickets. So that's going to be the science. And I have a few materials that I probably will pull in when I want to, just for a change of pace if we need it, but this is going to be our core for science. So, okay, I'm going to just kind of move around the table here. Okay, 3rd grade, Growing with God. That's going to be our Bible curriculum. That is from Positive Action. Every year they have a different theme, and this year, or the 3rd grade course, is Growing with God. There's a teacher manual, there's a student workbook, and the teacher manual is written for the presentation to a Sunday school class, but it's been very easy to modify for a homeschool environment. And we've really enjoyed it, and he retains a lot from it. So I plan to continue it. I do have a couple of other options though, so watch for a video about that, because I actually want some input. Because this is the first year that we've had to really buy our own curriculum, so I think I just went a little overboard. So I have a few choices, and I might like present them to you guys and then ask for your opinion. Yeah, but I also want to review this. My second grade one I'm going to definitely review, and then I can walk through the third grade one at the same time. If you watched my last video about our devotional, we've been using the VeggieTales one, and we've really enjoyed it, but this one is something that I know is just going to really appeal to him. It's called The Indescribable 100 Devotions About God and Science. It's a science-based devotional. So each of the daily devotions revolves around a science topic, and then they give you object lessons related to Scripture, and then there's a prayer. So I think he's going to love this. He's very science-minded, loves science, and so I may put aside the VeggieTales and do this. At least that's the plan for now. I was going to kind of hold on to it and finish the VeggieTales, but I don't know. I don't want him to outgrow this and not do it. So my plan now has kind of been switched to doing this on a daily basis. So this will be our daily devotion. This will be our Bible curriculum. And unless we decide to change this up, yeah, another video. Okay, so this is for art, and I've felt really bad that we haven't focused more on art because he does not like to draw and he does not like to color, but he does really enjoy art projects. He loves to paint. He loves these kind of fun, schooly kind of art projects where, you know, you have mosaics and cutouts and just cool stuff like that, especially if it involves paint. So I picked up the third grade one. I looked at this and I looked at the fourth grade, and I just felt like this was better suited for him. Again, it's not, art is not something that it seems to be a natural bent, that he seems to have a natural bent towards, but I definitely don't want to ignore art. Because I am a firm believer that if you use the creative side of your brain, then you become more creative in life. And, you know, we tend to, when you're really bent toward logic and black and white thinking, then you can put yourself in a box, you know, and it becomes harder to think outside the box in everyday life. So I really want to explore art more this year. I do have all the supplies for this. I don't have a review on it. We've never used it, but I have bought all the supplies. Sorry about my mess on the counter, but I bought this cart, and I've got all the supplies here, and then I've actually got some other materials down here just for organization. There's some art down here, big art pads and that sort of thing, tissue paper. And there's a couple other social studies options down here too about learning the states, which I'm not even going to get into. Moving on right along. Right here is what I want to do for literature. And if you saw my last video, I mentioned Mazdas and how much I really liked that. And we just touched on it because we finished up phonics last year, and we also had a reading program that came from Bookshark. And so I didn't want to just overload on language arts, so we did a little bit of the literature just to familiarize ourselves with it and see how we liked it. And I had thoroughly planned on using it this year, but I found this through BJU. And this is their fourth grade literature or reading. They call it reading, but really, to me, it's more of a literature program. You have the reader. There's two teacher guides. There's a part 1 and a part 2. There's an answer key for the student workbook, which is right here. And this goes through all the literary elements and how to, character analysis and all of the sort of things that you would learn in a literature program. of course, they're reading, but they're reading out of a reader and not actual books. But I really wanted this because when I started looking at the stories and realized how enriching it would be to have stories that depict our faith in everyday life, I found that was way more important to me than I realized once I got into it. And so although Mazdas was a beautiful program, it is not faith-based, and this is. And I really like how they depict the families incorporating faith into their lives, and it normalizes our faith, where, you know, a student who never sees or reads about faith being acted out in everyday life might think that they're weird or unusual because they do in their home. So I felt very strongly about needing a Christian reading program this year. And this is actually the second edition of this. They have a third edition available, but it's not available through the homeschool program. You can only get it through the school side of the BJU website. And I was told I could order it, but it's very different than this one. And so after much consideration, I finally decided I wanted to use this one, and I was able to find it used very reasonably. You can find these used because it's been around a while. This edition has been around a while, so you can find this used readily. And this student guide or student workbook is still available through all of the resources that I could find. Christian Book, Rainbow Resource, through BJU Direct, the convention. So this material is still available new, or you can probably find it used very reasonably if you choose to do so. But I'm not going to do a walkthrough now. I'll have to do that later. We're going to continue with Easy Grammar, and I have the 4th grade student workbook. I did not buy the teacher edition, so we shall see how good my grammar is, if I can do this without it. But I find I was never really referring to it with the 3rd grade, so I didn't get it with the 4th. I figure if I need it, I'll get it. But we also have quite a bit left in the 3rd grade, so we'll finish that up first, but I do have this. We're going to finish up People and Places in Our Community. This is IEW. It is one of their thematic courses. It's not one of their intensive courses. There's a teacher manual online, plus the student has a binder with all their work that goes in it. And we're going to continue this. I just love it. This is rated for, or it's published to be for grades 1 and 2, but I don't think it's too easy. I think it's more related to the content because it's very kind of, young in content, but it doesn't bother him at all. He's been fine with it. So I'll continue that, and I figure if I have to make a change, if I lose his interest, then we'll make a change. But for now, we're going to continue it. This is our mathematical reasoning, level E. This is supposed to be grade 4. And this is going to be our practice book for our math. It's not going to be our core curriculum. I use it mainly for independent work and practice when I feel like we need it. But anyway, that's what that's for. Also, I have these versatiles. This is 4th grade level as well. This is pretty cool. It's self-correcting. So they have several workbooks that they use. They complete the math problem, and then they place the tile in the appropriate place that correlates with the answer that they got. And then when they're done, they flip this over, and it has a pattern on it. Let's see if there's a picture of it here, because I don't want to open this up. Yes. So see the pattern here? So it shows a picture of what the pattern's supposed to look like in the book under the lesson. And if they match, they know they got them right. If the pattern doesn't look right, then they know they missed something, and they can go back and correct it. So this is meant for independent work, and also obviously skills practice, and it's self-correcting so that they can do it on their own. He's not real big on independent work, so we'll see how this goes, but that's what this is for. Thinking skills. I think I mentioned in my last video, if you watched it, that I love the fact that Timberdoodle introduced us to the idea of including thinking skills in our homeschool. This is the next book in line after the level 1, which was 2nd and 3rd grade, and this one is 4th and 5th grade. So very logic-based, critical thinking skills, and we love this book, so I'm thrilled to have it. And then for a little more abstract thinking, we have this one. It's the Moor Skill Sharpeners. This is the grade 3. We started it last year at the end of the year, so we're going to continue it. And I have a full review on this. I'll link it below, and a walkthrough. So I won't go too much into it, but there's a little bit different approach with the critical thinking on this one, and I really, really like it. Okay, spelling, we're going to continue with spelling. You see, I have level E ready to go, but we finished up level C and then started level D, and I think we're only about 2/3 of the way through the first book, so we have plenty of material here. And of course, if we finish, we'll just move on to the next book or the next level, because I do have it ready to go. And this is a sorry, I just lost my train of thought. This is spelling taught through dictation or through copywork and then dictation, and it's been a really good program for us. It's been very successful. He's a good speller. In fact, he tested out a level D, and I picked up level E before I got level D because I thought that we could just skip it because he tested out of it. They have placement tests for these, and the level E just had too much work. It was too big of a jump from C to E, and he was overwhelmed with the amount of work. So I decided to go back to level D, and it's been fine. So we'll just continue that. And this is our ShillerMath level 4 book. I did not put the manipulatives on the table because there's too much, and I didn't put the level 5 and 6 on here either, because this kit includes math for level 4, 5, and 6, which takes you all the way through pre-algebra. And of course, there's the manipulatives to go with it. So I didn't have room, so I didn't put them here. I'll have to do a separate walkthrough on that. Obviously, I can't do a complete review, but I'm very familiar with it because I work for Schiller at some of the local conventions. And so I've become real familiar with this curriculum, so I can definitely do a walkthrough in a separate video. Now, one thing we've never done is health as a elective. So this year I wanted to do that, and this is grade 3 through Horizons, and I just like the look of this. So I picked up the student guide. Did I pick it? Did I get the whole thing? Yeah, I think I did get the whole thing second hand. Yeah, because this is there's a student text, a teacher guide, and a student workbook. I picked this up quite a while ago. I might have had to order the student workbook separate. I can't remember. But anyway, it's grade 3. I looked at grade 4, and I felt like for the content, I wanted this one first because we've never covered health before. So I'm looking forward to that. It's just, I think, got things in here that we don't always think to talk about. And so I'm excited about that. And again, in some of the other videos, I think I mentioned that I wanted to incorporate more apologetics into our homeschool. And so I picked up this set. It actually has a workbook that goes with it. But I don't think, I got it on impulse. I didn't really look at it. It was labeled as a teacher guide. And it's just mainly a workbook. And I don't know. I'm going to keep it, and I may pull from it once in a while, but the main thing is I really want to go through the books. These are set up in a way that he will thoroughly enjoy, in the same, the format of of having chunks of text, lots of pictures, and basically you've got the question here and then the answer here. This series comes from Master Books. It's a Ken Ham series, And I've heard nothing but fantastic things about these. And these little books are meaty. They're not very big, but they're meaty. So I'm looking forward to this. So, okay. So I think that's about it. So yeah, it looks like a lot. But like I said, some of these things will be used as resources. And truly, if I, don't want to have to actually go through the entire curriculum cover to cover, I'll skip whatever we feel like we need to skip and extend the time frame to which we cover it if we have to. And so if it looks like we get behind on reading or whatever, we'll skip some books. I mean, it doesn't matter. We just have to have the resources here, so we're going to use them if we can. So that's pretty much it. And if you have any questions, just leave them below. I will be doing individual walkthroughs on some of these things. For sure the BJU, the Bible, the history, again, for sure. And then, of course, I have some... Oh, and the Schiller. And then I've got some reviews yet to do from last year's curriculum that I'm going to do. And so be watching for those. And if you want to be notified when those are up, please subscribe and click the notification bell. And that way you won't miss any of those videos that are coming up. So thank you so much for sticking with me. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.